We want recourse. We are tired of being bent over with no recourse. That's the problem. No recourse.
I can't actually tell if you're serious. Now I think you're getting serious.
I'm a little more serious than I thought I would be, quite frankly, when I started. The first 30 seconds I started talking about this.
The fan called about this, and I was like, what?
The more I wrote down a bunch of things during the break. I barely even communicated with you during the break. I've got a bunch of things I need to throw by our most trusted legal voice. By the way, also a great sports fan. And cool as heck. She is our Odyssey legal analyst. You hear her on the Fan. We used her nationally for years. She's great on social media. That would be Amy Dash. Amy, what's happening? How are you today?
Thank you guys so much.
All right,
I am so excited that you are on Fan because you know how much I love you guys.
Yep.
And I know that this is like a dream come true for you. And you are exactly where you're meant to be. You deserve it. And you are crushing it every single day.
Thank you, Amy.
That's so nice of you.
Appreciate
Thank you so much, Amy. We're thrilled to be here and just try to get the show off the ground and get a little foundation and hopefully be here for a long time. Ultimately, the listeners will determine if we are, and hopefully that's it's going well. Thanks for saying that. Now, before I give you some specifics, right? Just as an overall concept, when you hear, if somebody called you up and said, hey, Miss Dash, I had this wild hair idea. Fans need representation. Is there any way to pursue a union for fans? Your first before we get into the nuts and bolts, your first reaction would be what?
It's a spicy question. And I think that you cannot. So, by the way, I've never been asked this question. I don't know that many people have.
Yeah.
So just let you know, I was asked it 5 minutes ago. I believe I have the answer. But I want to continue this discussion, if that's okay with you guys, because I do want some time to dig a little deeper, because maybe I can come up with a creative solution.
If anybody can, you can. Yes. So we're all ears. Go ahead, Aim.
So this is not legal advice, of course, to any fans. But generally, you have the union relationship is between an employer and workers. So given if you're a worker and you can get 30% of workers to sign cards, then you're on your way toward possibly forming a union, because there will be an election through the National Labor Relations Board. But there's no relationship of employer-employee between the fans and the MLB. So that's the problem with that. Now, they could form a lobbying group. This is an idea that I had, where they can go up to Capitol Hill and lobby legislators to try to make changes to the laws, or specifically the National Labor Relations Act, which governs all of this unionization and collective bargaining and strikes and how long you can do that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they can say, listen, there should be limits put on the impact that this has on fans, on vendors, on everybody else, while this act is allowing the process to play out so that the employees or the unions can collectively bargain for what's fair.
Okay, gotcha.
So
now,
that's one thing.
Okay, let me interject for a moment.
Sure.
So maybe the word union is incorrect.
Yeah.
No, and by the way, we're not looking for health benefits. We're not looking for 401k. We're not,
Right.
we're not even going to charge union dues. This is on the arm. What I want, all right? So what I want to be able to do, like pertaining to all sports, not just baseball, even though baseball's front and center now. If you don't get on the field by a certain date during labor strife, we don't show up. If ticket prices aren't commensurate with inflation or other economic factors, we don't show up. And by the way, by not showing up, we also, there's a legal tie in there where we get something back, whether it's, credit, whatever. If certain owners don't show a desire to win, i.e. spending in these small markets, we don't show up. If Major League Baseball refuses to open up their books and make things public, all right, so we can have a real conversation about this, we don't show up. We just need some leverage as fans.
Well, listen, you can always persuade fans to go on strike, but that requires the cooperation of the fans, right?
Yeah.
So you might have some scabs in there that are not willing to, and they're like, oh, great, not everybody's showing up. The ticket prices are more affordable. There's great seats available. I'm going to go. So that's going to be a little bit hard.
I would never do that, by the way. I'm not that guy. I even when the Knicks were at their, and I know you're a big Knicks fan, even when the Knicks were, well, they're not that good now, but all the years, and there's been organized support outside the Garden a couple of times, and I know you know this. I don't get involved in that. I will never be the guy standing outside of any stadium saying, "Don't go." I just want there to be some sort of two-way, exchange, recourse, credit, whatever, where there is something for the fans to pursue. Not if the team loses 9-1 or the Knicks lose 13-14, but if we are not being treated fairly, whatever we determine to be fair or not. That's what I want to do.
Right. Well, I understand that, and that's why I think the best avenue would be to try to get some sort of legislation in place, maybe to protect the fans. Listen, fans can always try to sue, but in the past we've seen that that's been unsuccessful. So, what about the vendors? Do the vendors have unions? I think they do.
Yes.
So maybe that's a way where the vendors stand up on behalf of the fans, and the fans sort of develop a relationship with the vendors and say, "Listen, we're going to back you." And you should say that the impact on you is not fair because now you're taking a financial hit.
Interesting. Amy, we keep seeing this MLB's antitrust exemption being brought to light. It's usually just used as a threat by Congress to force sports or other entities that have these exemptions to act. What's going to come of this, if anything?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there have been attempts in the past through other lawsuits to try to get rid of that exemption, and they have failed. However, those were during different times. And I think now, especially with the NCAA Supreme Court and the Alston decision, there was a lot of dicta in that decision from the present Supreme Court justices that showed a much more modern approach. And in fact, they specifically questioned, one of them at least, why there was still the antitrust exemption and indicated that it was an antiquated thing. Basically, what happened was the other leagues never got that benefit.
Yeah.
So this was something that was grandfathered in and just sort of stayed in place. What's interesting, though, is Justice Breyer is retiring or just retired, and he's a huge baseball fan. So with him off, that could also sway which way this would go. So it will depend on who's nominated next. But I think right now is actually a good time to challenge that, and it is being challenged by a lawsuit involving the minor league teams.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
By the way, that's Amy Dash, our Odyssey legal analyst here at The Fan. Let's face it, anytime, whether it's a semantics union, whatever, some sort of representation, just some sort of call to action, this is the time to do something because, as I've said a few times, and I know, Amy, you have a couple of little ones as well, we've all learned how to move on without sports based on the pandemic. Now, me, I'm going back no matter what. But there are a lot of people out there who are not, so sold on returning. And if this greed and these gluttonous ways continue, not to mention what's going on in the world, then, yeah, Ukraine's one thing clearly, but $5 a gallon for gas, the inflation rate's the worst since the Carter administration. I mean, we're a disaster. We are a mess as a world and as a country. So that if these guys have the gall to be so inflexible in a boardroom over baseball labor discussions, this does seem the time when they're most vulnerable to maybe act, however you want to frame the union or whatever words you want to use. This is the time to pounce.
Yeah, and when it comes to money, I do understand that, tension there. But when it comes to changing the rules of the game, there should be deference to the fans and to the players, I believe, more so. Not complete deference. But I think you want to make the game enjoyable for the people that are playing it and the people that are watching it. So there should be more participation by the fans in that decision. Maybe they should get a seat at the table during these negotiations, and a fan representative or something like that.
Well,
that's something to advocate
How
for.
about we throw Mr. Met at one table, Mrs. Met, by the way. They had some good dates I saw on social media. We'll throw Fireman Ed. We'll throw Beningo can represent the other part of the Jet fan. We'll just throw,
the Viking, the Minnesota
we
Viking
just want
guy.
local. We don't. Yeah, but we can do that guy too. The guy in the barrel out in Denver.
Exactly.
We'll just find all the maniacal fans and we'll throw them. It's like a costume Halloween party, and they could just rant and rave and maybe scare owners, and maybe we'll get our way. I don't know.
You know what? Honestly, probably the person that would make the most sense in these discussions at the table would be your son.
Yeah.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
A kid.
Yeah,
Put a kid in
a
there,
kid.
and guess what? I guarantee you, any kid would be more rational than these guys.
You're right. They would sway public opinion. Amy, let me ask you a serious question from an NFL perspective. It's concerning Deshaun Watson. It's not about the civil suits, which we've talked to you before in the past about. That'll play itself out over time. But there's a criminal suit that I think he's getting deposed on tomorrow, and who knows whether an indictment comes down. But the Deshaun Watson thing has been lingering for a really, really long time in the NFL. They haven't made a decision on him, whether or not he's going to be suspended or not. But what do you think we can expect from whatever happens tomorrow with Deshaun Watson in this criminal investigation?
Well, I think from a sports fan perspective, because a lot of people are curious about whether he's going to be traded or not.
Yeah.
We're going to have a determination very soon on the criminal side of things, and that's really critical because if there are no criminal charges, a lot of times teams may not be so concerned about civil suits where any type of consequence would be monetary. And then there may or there may not be an NFL suspension, right? But it seems like most teams, based on his talent as a player, may be willing to deal with the bad PR look and a possible short-term suspension. So we really need to know, are there going to be criminal charges? If there's a criminal indictment, is it a felony charge, which is the reason why it's normally before a grand jury? They're deciding on a felony. Is it one? Is it multiple? Is it none? And we're going to know that soon because on Friday, the grand jury is supposed to convene, and either they could have a decision this Friday, or since there are about 8 to 10 women that are expected to testify, it might take a little bit longer. But I would say within the next week or two, we'll know. And then, yes, he's being deposed on the civil side, but I think he's going to plead the fifth until there's a criminal an outcome in the criminal side. So we'll sort of know what he's up against. Obviously, a felony charge is a lot more unpredictable and more serious to deal with. It could be plead out, or he may not get that option, and he might have to go to trial on it.
Oh, so as you guys can tell, incredible legal background, but you might not know, even though I said it at the start, also one of the best Knicks fans that we know. Season tickets have run in the family for, 30 years-ish, right around that, in that window there, Amy. So the biggest question of the day for you, do you want to trade Julius Randle this summer despite this little renaissance?
I do. I do want to trade Julius Randle. I appreciate. I actually have. I don't know. I guess I've missed it. Are you for a trade also?
Get rid of him.
Okay. Yeah. You know why? And maybe you would agree with me because I feel like you're this type of personality. I don't know how Tiki feels, but I don't like his attitude.
Yep.
And that's a big thing for me as a Knicks fan.
Yes.
Because that's what makes it enjoyable. And I just feel that if he can't control his attitude on the court, he's never going to have the mental toughness that's required to be able to be a clutch player.
Yeah. I can sit through, a 4 for 18. Not that it's enjoyable, but I can understand. I compartmentalize in my mind. All right, that's being a professional. There's good nights and there's bad nights. What I can't reconcile, and I'm sure I speak for every fan of every sport, I can't a compromised effort, a lack of leadership, where engagement is optional. Once he started going down that road, that's where I said in my mind, no matter what he does, and I know he's good enough where he's going to have a couple of good games, I will not be fooled. If there's a decent trade this summer, got to go. So, yeah, I want to trade Randle. Yes.
Thank you for that question.
All right. Well, we know you love the Knicks.
Yeah.
Love it.
Amy, appreciate you.
Very excited.
Thanks for hopping on with us.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care. Be well.
Thank you for engaging me in my idiocy. Thank you. Now, listen. Thanks, Amy. You got it, kiddo. Now, again, please stop with the moronic tweets and understand that by no means am I presenting this in the conventional sense. I feel like it needs to be reiterated. No, there will be no 401k. No, there will be no tuition reimbursement. No, there will be no fees. There will be no medical, no dental, none of that stuff, obviously. You will not get a little card in the mail that says, I am a member of the Sports Lunatic Union. What this is a way to band together with people far more intelligent than me, somebody with a legal background, and just find out if there's any type of recourse. Because we're all getting outpriced. We can't afford this. I speak for you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.